Uh,
Good morning to you.
Good morning.
7 a.m. What a time.
Yeah, it's not that bad. I'm usually up at 6 o'clock in the mornings, but it just so happens that on this day I have just returned from a very short vacation trip with my daughter, staying in a hotel. So I have not gotten much sleep leading into this.
Oh, no. Well, sorry to have to make it an early morning one just after that happened.
No, it's fine. I really thought I've got her. She's here at the house with me, and on a normal day, she's up at like 8:30 if I let her sleep in. So I thought, oh, this will be no problem, and I got out of bed, and we've had a long weekend already, and she's went to bed late last night, so this will be no problem. And I got up to start the podcast, and she was up.
She was already up. She beat you up. Oh, no. How much of a luxury is that, though, to have a kid that sleeps till 8:30 if you let them?
Yeah, it's usually pretty nice. So I don't know. I guess just because the sleep schedule's been thrown off from our trip, she's decided that she needs to get up early. But I thought it would be no issue today.
And here we are. Well,
Here
is
we
she going to
are.
be providing some background noise for us, or is she on the TV or something?
Yeah, we'll definitely see how that goes. I put her back to bed. I'm like, you need more sleep.
That's a tactic.
But she also knows. She's gotten the hang of what me recording a podcast means after 5 years of us doing it. So she will keep herself occupied and quiet if she does end up getting up again before we're done.
Okay. My kids aren't old enough that I've experienced the ability to put them back to bed and have them not immediately get up, like the second I put them down.
Well, it's a pretty unique experience for me too. She was just getting up. Like I stepped out of my bedroom to come to the office to record the podcast, and she has a lofted bed, so her bed is up in the air, and she's got a slide that comes down from her bed, and she was just getting on her slide to come down from the bed as I was coming out of the room. So she may have just woken up and decided she wants. Sometimes she comes to my room in the mornings and ends up sleeping for another couple hours in like bed with me or something. So she may have been just doing that and not fully up yet.
Ah, yeah, I see. That slide, though, that's one way to wake up in the morning, isn't it? You can't imagine getting on a slide and then going back to sleep.
Well, she picked it. She picked a lot of the furniture in my house, and that was what she had to have for her room. So,
Oh, yeah, I mean, it sounds awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I too have a bit of background noise. Well, you don't yet, but I definitely do. So, there's nothing I can do about it.
What is your recording situation today?
I'm in my bedroom, which is in the corner of the house, and the walls and the doors here are German built. They're very solid, but it is a house full of people, and they're all awake because it's 2 p.m. So there is not much I can do about that. And they're all getting ready for a party as well, so it makes it even noisier than normal.
Yeah, this is the schedule I remember doing 2 or 3 years ago. Last time you were in Germany for an extended period of time, I would get up in the morning and first thing I do is record this podcast with you.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I couldn't remember actually at all. Had completely escaped my mind, but I didn't think I would have made you get up at 7, so maybe we did like an hour later. Or maybe there was some daylight savings or something that took care of the extra hour.
Maybe. Yeah, I really don't remember exactly when that was anymore.
Yeah. A distant memory.
And how long is your stay?
I think we've still got 5 weeks. Getting back on a plane on the 10th of November. I'm not sure how many more recordings we'll do then, but probably 2 at least.
10th of November. Okay. Man. So are you able to continue working from Germany, or have you just taken like a couple months off for this trip?
I could have continued working because last time I was here I did that because that was a 3-month trip here, but I just had so much leave up my sleeve. In Australia, it accrues year over year, so your company doesn't like you to keep like months and months of leave up your sleeve because it's not good for them. But when I booked this at the start of the year, it didn't even use up all my leave, and then I've still been accruing leave since then, so I've just had so much time off available, and I've taken it all on this trip, so no work for me, thankfully.
That's great to be able to fully get away from it for a while and enjoy your trip.
Yeah.
I do not have accruing leave, but I have unlimited paid time off, which basically means my employer does not have to pay me out if I ever get fired.
You have unlimited... Did you say unlimited paid time off?
Yes. That's not a United States thing. That's just a my company thing.
But what does that even mean? You don't have to go to work and you'll just keep being paid. But if you don't go to work, they'll fire you. Is that...
Yeah, that's the catch with it, right? It's there's no set number that... It's like once you pass a threshold, you don't have any more PTO. But it's obviously all has the asterisk of within reason, and that reason is going to be defined by your manager or whatever.
Yeah, okay.
But it's worked out pretty good for me. I know in general the unlimited PTO is frowned upon because generally it means people take less time off because they're afraid of looking like they're abusing the system. And if you have a set number of days, it's kind of a use it or lose it situation. You've got to at least take those. But I'm not afraid of looking like I'm abusing the system. and I do my job, so no one complains.
Yeah, well, if you're doing that, then how could they? So how much time do you end up taking off per year?
It's probably still insignificant by like real cultured country standards. But I end up taking at least 4 weeks a year off. So a month a year.
That sounds pretty normal. That's the Australian standard.
Okay.
I thought in the USA it was like 2 weeks a year was your standard leave per year.
Before my company switched over to unlimited paid time off, I think I had somewhere between 10 and 15 days off a year. So,
right,
yeah.
So 2 weeks. That is not many. 4 weeks is much more reasonable. And then I think the more progressive countries are pushing 6 weeks, aren't they? Which sounds even better.
Right, yeah. Sounds great.
We put out a call for reviews a couple of shows ago. And we had some ratings. They seemed to all be 5 stars. And we had 2 written reviews. One from Australia, from Matthew Bergamini, and one from the United States, from J.E. Bear. So, thank you for leaving reviews for those written ones, and all the star reviews as well. Star ratings, I should say.
I don't know if it had to do with the timing around the Apple event that our shows ended up coming out, but the one episode where like you put out the call to ask for more reviews ended up underperforming in plays compared to the shows on either side of it.
Oh, really? I hadn't noticed.
Not that this is the reason that a whole bunch of reviews didn't come in. We got a handful, which is great. Thank you, everyone. But I was like, maybe we should ask again on an episode where actually everyone's going to listen to it.
Okay. And didn't we ask at the end of the show last time as well?
Oh man, I don't remember.
I don't know. Yeah, I can't remember.
I think it was at the start of the show.
All right.
Maybe that's why we don't have any listeners. Everyone heard us groveling for reviews and they just stopped listening.
And here we are again.
Never mind.
Yeah.
Do a reverse psychology approach. We don't need your reviews.
No, we're not doing it for the reviews anyway.
Yeah, obviously at this point that's the case.
You've taken to wearing protection finally.
Oh yeah, this is the bad thing about my cheeky way of putting topics in the show notes. I try to be coy about it, I guess, because I don't want to like give away the whole whatever I'm talking about, so that you have time to prepare for whatever I want to tell you. But sometimes they're so vague, and then you're traveling, so we have an extra week between shows, and I completely forget what I was talking about.
Well, I can use it as a topic myself if you'd forgotten what this is about.
No, I remember this one specifically, and I think I've got all of them now, but it took me a while this morning to catch back up and remember. So, in my hand, I've got my iPhone 14 Pro, and it has a screen protector and a case on it.
The case from Peak Design.
The case from Peak Design, which, man, I like this case. When I think of cases in the past that offer a reasonable amount of protection and aren't like those super thin plastic, like more decorative than anything cases, they always seemed like they were too bulky. But this Peak Design case, I snapped it on, and it did not significantly change the size of the phone at all, to the point where I've left it on for 2 or 3 weeks now, and the material is really nice. It's like almost a fabric-y material on the back. The buttons are good and clicky still. I opted for the one with the finger loop in the back, which they've had, and the royal they, as in case manufacturers in the past, have had cases with like pop sockets on them, or the metal ring that sticks out from the back to slide your finger through, which are way too big and bulky again. But this Peak Design case has like a little fabric loop with a magnet in it, so when it's not being used, it's held completely flat in an indent in the case. And then if I pop it out, it makes using my phone one-handed so much nicer. Like, I can actually hold my phone while I'm on a walk or something and respond to a text message with one hand instead of having to
people like pop
two-hand it. Right. And I've always seen the benefit of those pop sockets, but they're too big. Even when they're not being used in their like stuck flat position, they add a significant bump, like bigger than the camera bump, to the back of your phone. But this does not, because it folds completely flat into the case. So I've seen the light. I like it. I put a tempered glass screen protector on the front of my phone from D brand. It's a D brand screen protector, and it's one without a cutout, as in like around the camera or dynamic island area. It's just one solid piece of glass on the whole front of the phone, which in general is nice, and I generally like those even without a case. I tried getting one for my 12 Pro Max when I got it a couple years ago, and the design had not been nailed down yet, I guess, because there was a noticeable sharp lip around the edge of the phone. But in the last couple years, they've gotten better, and that lip is not present at all. So I would have continued using it even without the case. But with the case on, you really can't tell it's there, because it has a slight lip around the whole display to protect the screen. So it just feels like it's part of the screen.
So the screen protector and the case kind of are flush.
Right. The case still comes out slightly above the screen protector. But yeah, you can't tell that there's like an extra layer on top of the screen, especially with the case on.
Yeah, because I hate that, having like a visible extra layer on top of the screen. I don't know, something about feeling like you're going back to a pre-laminated phone, even though it's nowhere near that bad. But I've always avoided screen protectors for that, and plus having like random lips on around the notch or cameras or microphones or any of that. But it sounds like this is pretty transparent.
Right. Yeah, and at least in the past for me, when I've gotten a tempered glass screen protector, it's always had a cutout around the camera or a notch-shaped cutout in the case of older iPhones. This is the first one I've gotten that just goes right on top of the camera, and I was worried it was going to make front-facing photos blurry, but I really can't even tell. So it's much nicer. It's one solid piece of glass.
And you're not going to have like hairs and stuff getting stuck under it, or more likely dust, and then trying to clean it, but it's sticky, and
right,
those annoyances with screen protectors. Yeah, I wonder if it would degrade the image ever so slightly, but probably not enough to notice.
It probably does. And the front-facing camera has autofocus for the first time this year, so hopefully that helps a little bit. I don't know if autofocus can correct for any of that.
If you see any autofocus issues, then you might have to try without the screen protector, because, at least in the case with cameras, if you're adding filters and stuff on front of the lens, they can make the autofocus misbehave or a little bit slower.
Okay.
But if you're having no problems with it, then there'd be no reason to take it off.
Well, I thought I was going to get this case. It was free. But I thought I was going to put it on and then probably never use it again, or buy one of their like bike mounts or something and use the case only when I need to attach to that mount. But I've actually liked the case so much I left it on, which like is a very strong word for me, because I thought I was just going to be able to tolerate it or something, but I actually might leave it on for a while.
And you normally go caseless, like, so this is something completely new for you.
It changes the whole feel of the phone. The squared off edges are gone. It's not flat anymore. It's still more flat than like iPhone 10 was or something, but it's almost like a middle ground between that old rounded off design language and the new flat one, and it's slightly more comfortable in the hand. I was still surprised when I had friends who were still on like a 10S or something a year or so ago. Every time I'd go from my phone to theirs and hold it in my hand, I was like, man, this size with this rounded design feels so good.
It does, doesn't it? It feels amazing.
It does. So I kind of like how it's a middle ground between those two. It feels good in the hand, and it doesn't add a significant amount of bulk. And I've dropped the phone a couple times. I always drop my phones a few times in my year of ownership, so it probably would have survived anyway, but I had, there wasn't even that moment of, oh, it landed face down, I don't want to look at it. I knew it was fine.
I too have dropped my new phone with a case and taken some nice meaty chunks out of the leather.
Is that the official leather case?
Yes, the official one.
Okay.
No damage to the phone as far as I can tell.
The leather cases are nice. I really like the metal buttons on them.
Oh, they're so good, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've been using leather cases for ages and ages now, and I think it must have been the 6 series when they went from just having like leather buttons to having the metal buttons. Maybe it was 6 to 7, 6S to 7, something like that. Yeah, it
wasn't the iPhone 6. I had the leather case for the 6, and it was leather buttons still.
Sorry, it was the 6S or the 7, then that had got them new buttons.
Yeah, that was nice.
Mm.
My enjoyment of this case so much, actually had me looking at the official leather cases just yesterday. I was in an Apple store and went through their wall of cases and snapped them on, and I actually didn't enjoy them as much when I peak designed one. I like those those metal buttons a lot, but they were actually, I guess it was the texture of them. It made the phone too grippy, which I know a lot of people like grippy, but as far as like in and out of the pocket and things like that, I did not enjoy them as much.
I have no issues with in and out of the pocket, and I believe the plastic Apple ones are far grippier and far worse for getting in and out of the pocket. But yeah, I've never had
Right,
my pocket lining pulled out because of a leather case.
Maybe I'm wearing my pants too tight.
Maybe.
So, but I got to play with a lot of things in the Apple Store yesterday.
Lucky you were wearing protection.
Do you know what yesterday was?
Yesterday, Independence Day.
No, it was the launch day for the iPhone 14 Plus.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah, I knew that, and I also knew
Something
it was
way more
Independence
important.
Day, by the way, but that was the only holiday I could think of.
Yeah, so I went to an Apple store. Surprisingly, no line around the corner for the iPhone 14 Plus.
It was just a single phone, and not even the Pro one. Right, you're being sarcastic.
I know. Yeah, I walked in the store. That was the first thing I said to the genius or whatever the employee standing there. I was like, "You don't have a line around the corner for the 14 Plus?" He's like, "I know. Can you believe it?"
And he was being sarcastic too?
Right. Yeah.
Okay. I can't. Your morning voice doesn't give me enough hints about sarcasm.
Oh no, I need to finish my Red Bull I've got here. Get my inflection back. Apparently. But I did get to hold it. I got to hold the whole iPhone 14 lineup. 14 Plus, I was really impressed by, actually. It's a big phone, obviously, but it's lighter than my 14 Pro.
Significantly.
Right, yeah. So it actually felt really good in the hand, and it makes me miss the days when, like, all of Apple's phones were aluminum. Because it felt light, but I'm sure even by, like, iPhone 5 standards, obviously it's going to be heavy, but even like 6 plus standards, I'm sure it's pretty heavy. So I really wish we could get back to a point where phones were lighter and more easy to carry like that. But I feel like we're on a trend the wrong direction, because I think I'm going to be stuck with the big 15 next year if rumors are true and they have like ultra features in the big one again. But I'm not excited about it.
Yeah, I mean, for quite a long time, phones were getting smaller and smaller and lighter and thinner, and then everyone's complaining about the battery life, and then they did the opposite, and they got fatter and got better batteries, and now the argument has swung the other way. So,
and
sure,
the 14 Plus has the best battery life of any iPhone ever, and it's light. So both of those things can exist hand in hand if they wanted to.
Yeah, it's light with an asterisk.
By what I've been conditioned to expect from my phone, it's very light.
Do you have actual numbers of 14 Pro Max versus 14 Plus?
I can look them up. I saw them just yesterday. I can almost quote them. I think 14 Plus is like 230 grams for the 14 Plus, and the 14 Pro, not the Pro Max, just the Pro, is like 260 something. Let me look it up.
So we're talking like 30, 40, 50 grams. I guess that's a decent percentage.
No. The 14 Plus is 203 grams. I moved my 3 and 0 around. 203 grams for the 14 Plus. And
you get the Pro Max numbers.
Pro. Okay. Wait.
Oh, it's like I've got a frog in my throat all of a sudden up here.
iPhone 14 Pro Max is 240.
40 grams, yeah.
Yeah. And the iPhone 14 Pro is 206. So
So
I moved the 0.
Yeah, in both of them.
Yeah.
So the Plus and the Pro, non-Max, are basically the same weight.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, just very slightly lighter.
Yeah. Okay, so you can have good battery life in a big phone. I mean, in a lighter phone. But I don't think there's a significant weight difference.
The iPhone 5 was Apple's lightest phone they ever made. It was 112 grams.
Yeah, that thing weighed nothing. Had no inertia, so you could never break the screen.
It felt like a toy when you were holding it. I was like, this feels like it has to be a child's toy. There can't be a real computer in there. I loved that phone so much.
And can you imagine how light it would have been if the battery was removable? Do you remember holding like old phones and then, they felt heavyish, but you take the battery out and it'd be like, oh wait, there's actually nothing to this. All the weight is in the battery.
Laptops.
Or
yeah,
a laptop.
Same thing.
Yeah, same. Can't wait for I don't know, like mini nuclear reactors in computers that weigh nothing.
There you go. That's how satellites are powered already.
Really? Okay. So if they're getting them into space, they can't be too heavy.
No, they're obviously not. I really don't know what I'm talking about. I've got a friend who just got his doctorate in aerospace engineering, and he likes to talk to me about satellites he's working on. So I know that the statement I made is true, but I can't give you any more detail than that. But also, while I was at the Apple Store, I did get to see for the first time in person the Space Black 14 Pro. And
are you envious?
I'm a little less envious, actually.
Oh, that's good.
I still think it's a really good color, and I would have been happy if I got it. The stainless steel especially is really good. Like, it's a real black. But the glass on the back is very much dependent on the lighting. If you get the light just right, it looks black, but it can also look, like space gray, like in the past. So I am not quite as disappointed as I was before.
Slightly happier with your purple then?
Yeah. Purple's going to be a good color. It'll carry me through the year, especially because I have a case on it now.
Yeah, so it doesn't matter.
I can barely see it. And I got to put on an Apple Watch Ultra.
I thought you'd bought one when you sent me that photo.
That was the intention. That's why I did not provide details when I sent you the photo.
So you didn't buy one?
I did not buy one. I did put it on. I was really disappointed. I was wanting to try on the super thin, super comfortable trail loop that they bragged about in the keynote, and they didn't have any. They had the Ocean Band and the Alpine one, but they did not have any trail loops out.
Damn.
I guess those are very popular.
Yeah, seem to be.
But I tried on the Ultra. I was surprised. It was not as big or heavy as I was expecting it to be. I feel like I could wear that on my wrist every day, and it wouldn't feel too big. And I even think that it looks good, but it completely changes the way you look at it. Like, it looks good as this is a computer on my wrist. Like, it's a tool or a piece of technology. I think it looks good from that lens, and not from the, I'm wearing a piece of jewelry kind of way that I look at the Apple Watch I have on now. So I still don't think it could be dressed up and worn in any more formal settings. But I would not be opposed to wearing it the rest of the time.
Well, you've got the phone case that can go on extreme bike rides now, so you should get the watch to match. Make that lifestyle change. Life on the trail.
I think I'm not super tempted to get one, but I think even if I did, the only feature of the Apple Watch Ultra I'd ever take advantage of is the battery life. Like, it would have been nice to go on my, my 2-day trip I went on with my daughter the other day and just not have to bring a watch charger. That'd have been great.
Yeah. Yeah, I actually didn't bring my watch to Germany because I wanted to have like a ultra minimal technology setup while I was traveling, and just having the watch as an extra thing there with the charger that didn't work with anything else kind of scrubbed it from the list, really.
If you had the new AirPods, you could be charging those with the Apple Watch charger.
Right. Yeah, well, maybe with two purposes there, it might have made the cut, but no,
Yeah.
it's USB-C or nothing, baby.
So how are you charging your phone?
Ah, well, with MagSafe, but the other end's USB-C, so USB-C with an asterisk.
There you go. Should have got a MagSafe Duo charger.
Yeah,
And you could charge your watch.
Wait, did they revise them so that they fit on the new phones, the iPhone 13s?
No, there hasn't been a revision, but I did try to put my phone on one while I was there, and it worked fine. Even with the case on, it laid flat. So I don't understand what people have been
Okay.
having trouble with.
There was definitely at least one model of phone where it didn't sit properly on the thing.
Yeah, once they got to 13, the camera bump was apparently too big, and the phone didn't lay flat. And the 14's bump got even bigger, so I would expect it to have the same issue, but I didn't. So I don't know if the case is like helping me somehow by raising the phone up slightly.
Oh, that's probably
but it worked just fine. Yeah.
But you didn't walk away with the new Apple Watch, though, sadly. Do you think it would
No,
fit
if I
under
was-
the cuff of a business shirt?
No, I don't. It definitely wouldn't. I have a hard enough time getting a regular Apple Watch under the cuff of a shirt if I have to.
I know that feeling.
So I actually walked out of the store with nothing. Had they had in stock a studio display with a height adjustable stand, I probably would have walked out with that, but they didn't have any,
Really?
so I walked out with nothing.
So they had studio displays without the height adjustable stand, and that was enough.
Yeah,
to
they have the
make you
tilt
not get
ones.
it?
Yeah, studio display is a little pricey. If I'm going to spend that much money on a display, I want it to be the one. I want it to look nice, and I know if I get the tilt one, I'm going to have to like put it on a stack of books or something to get to the right height.
Gross. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'll spend the extra couple $100 on the right stand for it.
It's that instant gratification thing again. If you can get it straight away, sometimes it's what you need to buy.
That's exactly what it is. I don't need it
terrible.
bad enough to order one, but if I'm in the store and you have it, I will buy it.
It's dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
But what's the
this
point in
next
having
bullet point?
oh, damn, you ruined my segue. But
Oh,
it
go
had
ahead.
it had to be out of order anyway. I was going to say, what's the point in even having an external display when the iPad doesn't support it anymore?
Okay. Yeah, I got to play with Stage Manager. Finally, my 2018 iPad Pro was given support, and it is fine. I don't use my iPad, the big iPad, enough to really give it a full run, but I don't get it. And I think that without external display support, Stage Manager makes a lot less sense.
Yeah,
Because on my small iPad, in the floating display mode, I can get like 2, maybe 3 apps side by side enough to actually be using them all at once. And I could already do that in the iPad's multitasking. I could already have
exactly
split view and slide over.
Yeah, Stage Manager, I think, is actually worse than split view and slide over.
I agree.
And I could even get... I haven't spent much time with Stage Manager on just the iPad screen, but I could even get in situations where like I had 2 windows and they're almost overlapping each other perfectly, and I'm just thinking, what is the point of this? I got this tiny screen, and I'm already lacking or wanting for space, and this is doing nothing for me because I'm not seeing any more of either screen than I could before, or either window rather. Yeah, I don't get it.
If they were to give me one feature and cut the other, I wish they would have given me true external display support. and not Stage Manager, because I would have loved to have split view, like on a full external display. That's way better than Stage Manager.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, but as it sits now, I actually I've left it on. It changes the way I feel about my iPad when I use it. It almost feels like a laptop. When I open an app and it's not full screen, I'm like, oh, I'm on a computer.
Yeah.
But functionally, I've gotten no use out of it. And when I want to do true like multitasking, I still go into split view because it's so much nicer. You can see more of both windows.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I am split viewing right now. I've got Ferrite recording this audio on the right and the show notes on the left. Not stage managing those together. And I've actually, since we last spoke, picked up the Magic Keyboard for the iPad as well. The one with the keyboard and trackpad. So it's like a little laptop, and yet Stage Manager still doesn't make sense in this situation. I think only in an external display does it make sense.
That's such a good keyboard in case, though. I'm glad you bought it.
Well, yeah, it'd been out of the back of my mind about getting it since Stage Manager and getting back on the iPad bandwagon. And then, just the day before I left for Germany, I was just perusing the classifieds, and then I noticed that someone had listed what they thought was the keyboard Folio, the one without the trackpad, the cheap one, and then they knocked the price off what they thought the RRP of that was, but it was actually the Magic Keyboard, so I ended up getting it for next to nothing.
Oh wow, what a steal.
Yeah, it was great. This guy, I looked at his profile, he had like 5 iPads for sale and various accessories, so he looked like some sort of iPad flipper. And I was surprised that he didn't know what he was selling, really. But, yeah, I got a bit of a steal.
Wow, okay.
Couldn't
so
pass
you're
away.
recording our podcast on beta software, is what I'm hearing.
Yes. That is true. Although, we're at like beta 10 now, so how unstable could it be?
As long as Stage Manager is turned off, I think you're fine.
As long as Stage Manager is nowhere near it. Yeah.
Right. That's okay. I've been guilty of doing that every year. My Mac's always ran the beta.
Yeah.
Except this year, because my podcasting computer is a 2015 iMac, so I don't get it anymore.
And mine's a 2015 MacBook Pro, so nothing for that either. Although I did see that someone has hacked the bootloader or something, that you can install the latest OS on the 2015 Macs as well if you wanted to.
Right. And I've gone through that process with my 2010 Mac Pro, and it's really tedious. It's not even really worth it in my mind.
Yeah. But yeah, so alongside the bringing Stage Manager to the slightly older iPads, they've wiped the external display support until, I think they said until later this year, but it's already pretty late in the year, so I wouldn't be surprised if that gets delayed again until next year.
I mean, they delayed external display support when they added older devices to Stage Manager.
But
so
they
it
also
seems
said
like
this external display support is not coming to these old devices at all.
Right, exactly. So it seems like Stage Manager and external display support, as it currently sits, are just like pretty tightly coupled, and they couldn't give one feature to older devices without giving both, so just disabled external display support. But in my mind, they just got to add, like a little feature toggle around that, so that external display support's only enabled for newer devices, and then they can put it back in the betas. So hopefully that can come by the end of the year. It shouldn't be too hard.
It was buggy as hell, though. Can't forget that.
Oh, was it really?
Oh, yeah. Just
Okay.
the beta before they removed it, or 2 before they removed it, I don't think you could even drag things from the recents list without the iPad respringing. It was pretty rough.
And was that an external display issue or a Stage Manager issue?
That only happened on external displays.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, maybe it's worse off than I thought. What I had heard was that external display support was good, and it was just Stage Manager that was bad. But
I don't know how you can uncouple them so much, but yeah, I wonder what it is about external displays that makes it so different from the local stage manager.
Yeah, I don't know, because iPad has had the obviously the ability to mirror its display forever, but it's also had like a concept of external display support for the majority of its life. Like video editing apps have been able to support a second display to like show video playback on only.
Yeah, some games took advantage of it. I think like Real Racing 3, which was many, many years ago, maybe even like iPad 2, had external displays support.
Yeah, exactly. So iPad's always had this concept of being able to output a secondary image and scale it appropriately for the display, and they've just never done it fully, which I'm frustrated by.
Well, we're almost there. And
Almost.
the iPad's almost a computer.
What's a computer?
I don't know. An iPad with a magic keyboard.
And there you go. We finally have an answer to that commercial.
After all these years.
And then we come to the bullet point that I actually was having a hard time remembering what I meant.
Lacking focus. Is this something to do
Lacking
with focus
focus
modes in iOS?
Yeah, it's really not even worth talking about.
Okay.
Where we left off, you had the question of what happens when you go to sleep with your always on display. Is it going to be bright? Is it going to keep you up? The answer is if you have a sleep focus mode enabled, it turns off.
Makes perfect sense, doesn't it?
It's also not very bright. Like I think my very first night I laid down and the always on display was on. I noticed it and it bothered me. And at that point I set up a sleep focus mode that didn't do anything except turn the display off. Like it still enabled all my notifications. Because I have like anxiety or a FOMO about like, man, what if something really important comes in while I'm asleep? I want to know.
Like a message from me.
Yeah, exactly. And you know that I respond to those. You send me messages at 3 a.m. and you'll get a note back from me immediately. Most of the time.
Well, I didn't, but go on.
Oh, okay.
The last message I sent you was at 3 a.m. your time, I thought, when I was trying to tee up this
I think I
recording.
did not respond to that one. I did read it, and I was like, okay, I can answer that one.
Really? You were
later.
awake? Oh, man. Now I'll never send you a message at 3 a.m.
No, don't feel guilty about that. Facebook messages or, every app pings me in the middle of the night. It's not just you. Anyway, it works. The always on display turns off. I'm not convinced that I even need the always on display. I have not found a single use case for it, so I'm still on the edge of turning it off. But yeah, it's very dim and doesn't bother me in the middle of the night.
It's interesting that there hasn't been like this wild praise for the always on display, or it's in fact most people are saying it's worse than like an Android always on display because it's showing too much. And there hasn't been any real... There's been nothing groundbreaking at all. It's just a display that's on and seemingly annoying to most people that have it. And
right.
Yeah, on the verge of just being switched off.
I was never in the camp of like wanting an external display or understanding why people did. My screen lights up if I have a notification and I can read it.
That in itself is handy.
Yeah, because it's an indication. When the screen's always on, you almost don't notice when something comes in. So, yeah, I don't know. I didn't get it. It's not something I ever wanted, and it's not something I'm taking advantage of.
If it was just showing the time and then you got a notification and then the wallpaper appeared, I think it would be more obvious that something had happened. So perhaps it was just a real mistake to have this like slightly dimmed version of the entire screen always there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I get it from like a personalization standpoint, I guess. Because, like my lock screen cycles through pictures of my daughter or whatever. So it's kind of cool to set my phone on the table at lunch and there's like always a picture of her, I guess. But it's, yeah, not super valuable.
If the date, the time widgets and widgets stayed there and then the wallpaper dimmed to black, yeah, it'd probably be just a more usable feature.
Mm-hmm. Maybe there'll be enhancements to it in the future. But as it sits now, it seems like something they added just because people have been asking for it.
So with 10 minutes of recording time left, we can start the show. Just kidding. I'm not on a hard deadline. More of a go help people deadline. If you know what I mean.
Yeah, you can record as long as you want. It's just the longer you record, the more angry your family's going to be when you step out of their bedroom.
Exactly.
Yeah, I know that feeling.
Well, good morning, and I can say
Good morning.
and you can answer truthfully for once, unlike all the other times when you're blatantly lying through your teeth.
Feels good.
Yeah,
I actually don't mind. I don't mind the schedule.
No, that's
Mornings
good.
are generally pretty good for me.
You're sounding more awake than when we started, I have to say.
I've almost made it through my Red Bull.
That'll explain a few things. We received a message from QBO, aka QuickBooks, on Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
The Oracle, as we call them.
This is Isaac, who we praised in our 100th episode as we recapped 100 episodes of our podcast. He sent us in a message long ago predicting the very keyboard that you have on your iPad.
The one that I'm using, as it happens.
Full trackpad support.
Mm-hmm.
He called it out in detail and with an extremely high level of confidence.
How long before the Magic Keyboard appeared did he call it out? Describe it.
Oh, I don't know. Do you know off the top of your head?
No, I don't. I have a feeling it was
Okay.
like years, though. So definitely wasn't months.
Right. I think it was at least a year in advance. Either way, at that point, when we commended him for what I think we called the most accurate prediction in the history of the show.
Here we go. Sorry, I've got it. He said
Okay.
it in June 2019, and it came out in March 2020.
Okay, so almost exactly a year, just under.
Yeah.
So at that point, we encouraged him to please reach out to us again if he ever has another very strong feeling or prediction about something. And since the last episode, that's what he's done. He's reached out to us again.
About mixed reality, more or less.
Right. Not a voice message this time that we can play back, unfortunately, but a whole like Notion document with bullet points of what he thinks is going to happen.
I'm not familiar with Notion. Is this something you've used before? Is it just a note-taking platform?
I think note-taking is probably underselling it. It's something I've heard of before, but it's not something that I've used. But yeah, basically note-taking, like group collaboration, I think, is probably a better word.
Okay.
So the article for Apple MR predictions, his first bullet point here is that the redesigns in the last few years are to adapt UI to work in what he calls "quote-unquote" space, as well as on our screens. So things
virtual
like
space.
Right, virtual space. So things like the home screen widgets will enable apps to present in mixed reality. So I assume things like the widgets we have on our iPhone home screen, he thinks exactly that is what we'll be able to bring into virtual reality or mixed reality.
So they extend all the way from a watch complication up into mixed reality.
Right.
Well, it does make sense to like reuse a technology that's already existing. That way, that all developers get that for free, basically. Once an MR platform launches, in any way.
Right. Yeah. And he goes on to specify that the apps themselves will still require a redesign for the display's platform, but their widgets will, like you said, come for free, which I think is a good way to have some amount of mixed reality content right off the bat when this launches. And it makes sense. If you have a pair of glasses that just add things to the real world, sticking a calendar or a weather widget on your desktop or on a wall or something is like exactly what you'd want to do. Widgets serve the main purpose in a mixed reality context, I think.
Or just like always floating at the same spot of your vision so you can reference them at a glance at any time. Not actually being connected to something physically.
Right, okay, yeah. Let's see. And then it goes on to elaborate with the UI changes. The elements have shifted to cards and other floating elements, such as bubbles and orbs, away from edge-to-edge overlays. You can't go edge-to-edge in reality.
Well, that sounds familiar to how the Oculus does it. The app you're using is like a card in front of you, and then you can have other cards to the left and right as well. Although that's only a recent-ish addition to the Oculus platform.
Yeah, I think the card style of UI is definitely popular right now, both in iOS and other platforms. But I definitely see why a card is something you could easily take out of an app and put in virtual reality, whereas an edge-to-edge display, that content, I guess you could just wrap a card around it, but it wouldn't be designed for a card style view, so it wouldn't work quite as seamlessly. So I could understand how Apple pushing people to card views more now is in anticipation of the mixed reality context.
So, because anything that exists right now as an app could exist as a card in a mixed reality context.
Yeah, like in the least amount of work scenario is just, your app is containerized and put in virtual space in a card or basically a virtual phone is what it would look like.
It's like an iPhone app on an iPad.
Yeah, exactly.
But the iPad is VR or MR or AR.
But what you'd really want in that context is not just the app floating. You'd want all the content of that app where you could like separate them and arrange them how you want in virtual space. So if everything was inside of card elements, that would be easier to split up and move around, and it would look better. And then I got ahead of myself, I guess, because his next bullet point is users will be able to leave widgets in different physical locations around their environment where they will persist until moved or deleted. So you can have a clock and a featured photo on your wall, a calendar, and now playing on your desk. And hopefully that launches alongside interactive widgets. And then he says perhaps only interactive via gestures detected in wrist muscles by Apple Watch.
This is one that I can't really get on board with, because it just feels kind of antiquated to continue the metaphor of like the desk or the home environment, and then have virtual things like somewhere where you have to physically go to it to interact with it. Wouldn't it make more sense to just have like a gesture that pulls any of these things, like a clock or a fitness ring or a photo, like out of thin air? Like, why would you have to be somewhere in the physical environment to interact with that?
Well, I don't see why both of those things can't be true. Right? You can pull up your photo library at any point, but also you can pin a photo to your wall if you just want to always see that when you walk through your living room or something.
Okay.
I mean, this convention is very well established, I think, with HoloLens. Does exactly that, with the ability to stick things to your environment. It's admittedly been years since I've looked at HoloLens tech. It seems to have been relegated to very niche use cases. But I like the idea of it. Just the ability to organize things. Because as much as having a palette where you can launch your activity ring or your clock or weather or whatever at your command is convenient, it would always be easier to have those things like permanently in your environment where they're all glanceable and you don't have to do a command or a hand gesture to pull it up every single time you want to check a timer or something. If you can just pin a timer to your wall, you can just glance at it whenever you need it.
But what if you're not near it? What if you're in another room?
Well, I guess that's where both use cases would come in. But in the context of sitting at my desk working all day, I don't move that much. So it would be nice to have some things glanceable and not have to do a more deliberate gesture every time I want to see them.
I like the wrist muscle detection from the Apple Watch, because that's, as we know, already a feature that's being developed and available for some certain uses.
Right, yeah, the accessibility mode in the Apple Watch, where you can control it entirely by moving your wrist or tapping fingers together, it's very robust already. Like, you can easily is maybe not too strong of a word. It's not tricky. You get the hang of it quickly to navigate the whole Apple Watch just by moving your fingers. So if they can do that in that much detail with the sensors in the Apple Watch, I could definitely see that being tied into this virtual reality device.
And allow Apple to potentially sell more watches as well, if that was a little perk that MR users got.
Right, yeah. It's just making this whole buy-in on the headset even more expensive. So we're talking like, the rumors are somewhere around $2,000 for this headset. And
you
we got to buy
to have an Apple Watch.
I mean, I would have to have it. I wouldn't want to miss out on that.
Yeah, but you'll have one anyway. I wonder if it would work with Series 3.
I don't think so. And then next thing he says is there could be two devices, one Mac-like and one iPhone-like. A device that complements the iPhone would mainly just do widgets notifications like the watch, and maybe some way to watch video or play games, but maybe not. Okay, so he's saying one device that basically just presents content, I believe. Like the iPhone one is showing you widget notifications, and the Mac-like one is more interactable, lets you do things, I guess. I think that could make sense as a long-term strategy, and it could be valuable in the same way the watch is valuable. You know, the only thing I really use it for is getting notifications. So if it had notifications in Siri, you could probably do almost everything you want to do. I don't know if it would sell well just as that. And I think the rumors right now about Reality Pro being the first device they're going to announce next year seems to be closer to what the Mac-like device he's talking about, where it's going to be more interactable.
Yeah, if MR is the future, then to have like there has to be like a powerful headset of some description, but that's not going to be the one that we always have on our heads as we just like go down to the shops to buy some milk. So it makes sense that there's a divide between, well, the iPhone-like one or the display-like one, whatever that is, and then
right.
You know, the beast that's putting out like 16K, rendering 16K games or whatever, back at the office, or the one that is so high res that it's comfortable to sit in all day long and doesn't even need a battery because it's plugged in. Or yeah, it's an interesting distinction that seems to make a lot of sense.
If there's any truth to the rumor that this device was going to be called Reality Pro, it almost lends itself to like, yes, there's going to be a non-pro device at some point in the future, right?
And a Plus. And an Air.
And a Max and an Ultra. Yeah. So yeah, I think that could also make a lot of sense. Until the eventual day where this thin and light, always on device can do everything. But that's probably way down the road.
And then they start making ads. What's VR?
Ugh. No.
Quite simple. No.
Uh-huh. All right. And then...
No, what's reality? That sounds better. What's reality?
What's reality? Oh, that's a good one. And then he says, maybe it's one device where owning a new Mac unlocks greater functionality. Could be tied to universal control, so you're dragging Windows off your Mac screen into reality, but not necessarily launching apps on the device. So your Mac is still running it, but it's just displaying it in MR. And then he says, I'd like to see persistent, arbitrary placement for app windows like widgets, but this could impact performance. He says, picture the user with Chrome tabs scattered across the apartment like old magazines. And then Stage Manager could be a palatable way to frame limitations to a certain number of simultaneous app windows. Maybe also keep them all in a certain location, aka the stage. Yeah, Stage Manager already has a limit of 4 apps per screen. So it's like they've established this limitation already in iPadOS. And if this is their true multitasking paradigm that they think will work across all devices, including future reality devices, that could explain why they've been trying to make it work as hard as they have been.
I think Stage Manager would suit VR perfectly. You certainly couldn't have the navigating the menu bar with a pointer in your fingers or something like that.
Right.
But yeah, this is the the universal control aspect of it sounds very likely, and the headset would act kind of like an external display for a Mac. So you would have to have a Mac for it to work, and the Mac could be just your regular MacBook Pro or whatever that you use just as a regular computer to do stuff. But then you put on the headset and you go into this other mode or something, but it's still just your Mac computer. It's not like this other operating system.
My only thought, I think that is very possible and maybe even likely, but I think if there is a device running it, it's going to be like an iPhone and not necessarily your Mac.
I mean, a Mac's just an iPhone these days anyway, isn't it?
Right, the hardware is the same, so there's no reason that both couldn't, but it seems like for something wearable, they'd want to tie it more closely to a more portable device like an iPhone. Or maybe it's both.
Yeah. I was thinking along the lines of the thing that you do your job on, and not so much the thing you walk about the shops with. Or even the house.
Well, I was thinking more, yeah. I don't know. I guess it really depends on how they're going to market this device. If it's look, you can take virtual meetings and all of that, maybe it does tie more into a Mac. But if it's more of a content consumption device like iPhone or even iPad, and something you want to sit in your living room and watch TV in VR instead, because you can have a 100-foot display or something. It seems like you'd want to have it on a device in your living room and not your Mac in your office or something, but I don't know.
Yeah, yep. Well, I still think whoever can put an ultra high res display in a cheapish device in an existing ecosystem is probably going to win the VR fight, or at least get a massive head start.
Yeah. The hardware is getting there. Slowly. I'm still waiting on the real reason. like the killer feature, the one use case that works so much better in VR or MR that will keep me coming back. Because as now both of us have experienced, at least with the VR context, it has a honeymoon period, and the technology is really cool, but it does wear off.
I honestly think I would do my job in VR if it was a Retina resolution. And
yeah, if you didn't strain your
ecosystem.
eyes to read.
Yeah, it's just such a bad resolution, such a low resolution at the moment. I don't have a high-end one or anything, but I can't even imagine one that's high-end at the moment would be a really impressive resolution.
Right. Yeah. It needs to be higher resolution, and maybe I'm not one to talk about this, but it has to be more comfortable to wear. My headset it was state of the art. In like 2016 is an HTC Vive, still wired to the computer, and it gets hot and heavy after a while of playing.
Okay, well, I don't think the modern ones have that too much of a problem.
Okay.
I've gone many hours wearing one without an issue.
Okay, yeah. So I'm excited to see what happens. If anyone's gonna figure out, it'll be Apple. If they do half the things that Isaac has predicted for us here, I think it's going to be a great device.
Yep. Bring on next year or the one after.
Do you think this is coming this year? Is that what you're saying?
No, definitely not this year. I'm saying next year.
Yeah, as in 2023. Yeah,
that's it. Yeah.
But this is it, Isaac. If you nail these predictions when this device comes out, just start preparing yourself now. You got to come on the show and talk to us about it.
Yeah, good idea.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's blast through this. The sound of silence. I don't even know what this topic is.
Aha! Cheeky show notes.
Third one today.
That is, I got my AirPods Pro.
Oh, that's right. Nice.
And I love them.
I'm glad to hear it.
The most upsetting part about getting these new AirPods is realizing how long I've gone without him. Like I skipped the entire first generation because I was so worried about them being uncomfortable or the noise cancellation causing discomfort that I never even considered them. And as soon as I got them, I realized my mistake.
And here, I don't even understand how people wear them, but I'm really glad they're comfortable for you and everyone else who wears them.
They're very different than standard AirPods. I mean, they obviously go much deeper in your ear, and they feel different, but I haven't had any issues with them falling out on me or causing too much discomfort. I definitely get still, if I just have noise cancellation on and I'm not playing any audio, if I leave that on for like 30 minutes, I get that same like pressure feeling. But if I have music or a podcast going, I don't seem to feel it.
Oh yeah, that pressure thing. I went like 20 hours in the air with noise cancelling on the entire time, and I don't get the pressure thing anymore. So I think what I've done is like almost like banana phone. I touched you and I gave you the disease, but it left me.
So now I got to find someone else to pass it off on.
Exactly. Yeah,
well,
you need to reveal it to someone and let them.
It was so good, and I found it was so good, especially like on my walks. I walk along some busy streets, and it's hard to hear my podcasts. Now it's not hard. It was so good that I convinced my mom to buy a pair as well, because she also walks along busy streets. So this is my chance right here. Hey Mom, sometimes when noise cancellation is on, it causes like an in-ear pressure. So just be thinking about that.
Think about it a lot.
And now I've passed it off to her.
And now you don't have the pain anymore. Sorry, David's mum.
I think you've really got to be looking out for it to notice it, which I guess that was my curse. Sorry. Sorry, Mom.
No, I specifically looked out for it on my recent flight and I didn't get it. Maybe it's just a certain types or certain levels or certain cancellations that causes it. I don't know.
I have read that it goes away with age, like with some level of hearing loss.
Well,
like
I guess
it really is a sensitivity to some frequencies. So.
Yeah, my ears are pretty bad, so yeah, maybe that was one of the things to go.
So, but it's so nice to be able to go on my walks or mow the yard or anything else, and my headphone volume is low, and I can still hear everything. That's great.
70-year-old David thanks you.
So I think he thanks you, James. You're the one that convinced me to finally order them. I still wasn't going to.
I hope he remembers that. Now, if only Apple could make a pair that fit my ears.
Well, they have the new ear tip sizes with this generation.
Yeah, but the small one was, I think, too small. So going even smaller, I mean, it might work. Maybe I was wrong that it was too small, but I don't think so. It doesn't matter now. I'm happy with plain old AirPods.
Was your issue discomfort, or were they not staying in your ear, or what exactly was the issue?
It was not staying in my ear.
Okay. The same problem you have with all AirPods.
Yep, except the very classic design.
You should try some Beats or something.
Try Beats? Which ones? I tried the Power Beats. No, not Power Beats. Beats Fit Pro, I think. Yeah, I tried them and they were very uncomfortable.
Are those the ones that have like the extra piece to keep it stuck in your ear? Like
yeah, the ones, yep.
Oh, darn. That's exactly what I was thinking of.
Yeah,
okay, never mind.
I bought them and returned them. I tried them all.
You need to get some ear surgery or something.
Oh, thanks.
Some plastic surgery.
But yes, I do have noise-cancelling headphones for those times when I need them, which is on an airplane, because I've been doing some travel recently, and they worked pretty well.
All right. Yeah, tell me about your travels.
Yeah. I won't spend too long on it, but I put some notes that were not ambiguous at all. I wrote travel, batteries, eSIM, fitness. So we know exactly what we're talking about. Yeah, battery-wise, it was really nice having modern devices, the 13 Pro Max and the iPad Air 5th generation, because even though I had AC power in the back of the seat on both flights, I still went from Perth to Dubai to Germany and then didn't even charge them until the next morning, and used them like basically the entire way because I didn't get to sleep really. I not even like use one then use the other, but Paul, who was with me, actually I haven't told you that story either, but only Paul was with me, and he used whichever device I wasn't using, and they both had 20%, even on battery vampire situation, whatever it's called. But both devices held up incredibly despite excessive usage in extreme environments, I guess you call that, when you've got like dodgy reception or roaming on weird non-home networks of poor Wi-Fi and all those scenarios. Didn't plug them in once and had battery to spare, so that was nice.
That is very nice.
Yeah, it was great. The pre-story, which I didn't mention, is that we all got respiratory syncytial virus 7 days before we left. And Paul ended up in hospital with pneumonia and then wasn't allowed to fly for 7 days after he got out of hospital. So Yasmin and Johannes actually left on schedule, and then we were left behind and ended up flying out on Saturday.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's quite a fortnight for us all.
I've tried to piece together the story because you invited me to your shared album for your trip, and I saw the photos of Yasmin and Johannes on the plane ahead of time. And I was like, oh, I see. James was clever and wanted to fly out on his own, so he didn't have to deal with children on the flight. I did not. I did not. Yeah, I did not realize that Paul did not go along.
So yeah, I thought, splitting us up, I thought was the less stressful way to fly because there was no dynamic of the two kids fighting with each other. Yasmin thought it'd be the other way around, but most people agreed with me, and I think in the end it was rather peaceful to just fly with one child and one adult instead of two children, two adults.
So which one of you do you think got the short straw in terms of the child that would be harder to fly with? A younger child or an older child?
Pretty borderline, but I think I got the raw end of the deal because Paul's not quite at an age where he'll watch TV for hours on end, so he would watch two shows and then need something else to do. And on top of that, he's going through the phase where his legs are tired at any point where he has to walk anywhere, so I ended up carrying him through a lot. And Dubai's a massive airport, so I did a lot of carrying.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's pretty much what I expected.
Yep. But, he also wasn't too bad. The first flight was 11 hours and he slept for 10 of it. So, yeah, I can't complain.
Wow. Yeah.
I had my first experience with dual SIMs and eSIMs as well.
Okay, how did that go?
Well, I'm still a little confused about the whole situation. So I downloaded this app called Nomad, and that you pay for a SIM, a data plan, and it gives you all the instructions and installs an eSIM on your phone, and it says make sure you do this while you still have data on your other SIM, or Wi-Fi at least, I suppose. So I did that all in Australia. All the screens are very well laid out, this is your first number, this is your second number. You use this one for data, you use this one for phone calls. You have data roaming options on and off for each one. So the actual settings screen I thought was very well laid out, very logical. And I thought I had everything set up perfectly before I even left Australia. And so I got to Germany and landed, and then before I was even off the plane, I was sending iMessages to Yasmin, and everything was perfect. No issues. But then when we got to the luggage collection, it was a 2-hour wait for luggage, which was absolutely ridiculous. But in that time, I was still sending iMessages, and then I went to send a photo by iMessage, and it came up with that red exclamation mark and said something like, unable to send with primary number, which I couldn't fathom what that meant, because sending with the primary number would have mean I'd have data roaming on my Australian SIM turned on, which was off. But then on the other hand, there's no difference, I thought, between an iMessage of text and an iMessage of a photo. So why wouldn't one go through and the other would?
Right. Yeah, it seems like that should just be the case.
Yeah.
When it says primary number, is it actually referring to an eSIM issue, or is it talking about that setting in iMessage where you can have send an iMessage from your phone number or email addresses, or maybe those new phone numbers as well, and you need to go in and check those as valid things to send and receive from too?
Yeah, so I didn't think of that till a little bit later, so I didn't check that setting at that point in time. But after a little bit, I just hit the button that said change, and so it sent via the primary number. But it should have sent via either number, really, because I mean it should have sent via the eSIM number because it had data, and an iMessage is just data. But anyway, I clicked the thing, and it sent successfully. And a little bit later, I went into the iMessage settings, and it was all as you would expect. Only my Australian number was ticked, and it was starting new messages from my Australian number, and everything was going. But then I thought, have I accidentally enabled data roaming for my Australian number? Even though the toggle is off, is iMessage somehow rerouting and doing that? So what I did, which I don't think was a mistake, but seems to now be a mistake, is I just thought, look, I'll go and disable international roaming on my telco's website to make sure I'm absolutely not using data roaming on my Australian SIM.
Mm-hmm.
And after I did that, my Australian SIM basically died. It doesn't find networks anymore. I haven't been able to rejoin a phone network with that SIM card. It just says no service. And that's despite...
You turned off the SIM card entirely.
Yeah. I've even gone and re-enabled international roaming on the telco website. And this SIM will not come back to life.
And it's not like there's a telco store you could just walk into in Germany now to get that fixed.
No. But I don't know if they could do anything either. Like, a SIM card doesn't have to be on its home network to realize it has international roaming, as far as I know. But that's what it kind of feels like.
Right.
At this point, I think I have to be in Australia to get this SIM card to work again.
Right, because you've disabled it from connecting to towers that aren't in Australia, so it can't connect to be told it's allowed to connect again.
That's not how I thought it worked, but that does seem to be the case.
Hopefully that doesn't cause too much inconvenience for the next couple months.
The only thing I can think of is that iMessage will deregister my normal phone number after 4 weeks.
Like if you don't use it?
Yeah.
You need to mail your SIM card back to family in Australia and have them put it in their phone real quick, and then mail the SIM card back to you.
Okay. Luckily, the German post, the logistics companies, are really efficient here, so should be able to get that done pretty quickly.
Perfect.
Easy. Okay.
All right. You have a solution, even if it's just in case of emergency now.
Okay. I think I'll just deal with it.
Okay.
Yeah, but apart from that, eSIM's absolutely great. It works flawlessly. Besides that little iMessage hitch, nothing else has gone wrong. And only my Australian numbers acted up. But yeah, eSIMs.
They're the future.
They seem to be. Well, you can't even put a physical SIM in your new phone, so they must be. Yeah. All right, 2 minutes before I get kicked in the butt.
Okay.
Since I, this isn't really a travel topic, but since I didn't bring my watch with me to Germany, I've been using the new iOS 16 fitness features. So it counts your steps and closes just your move ring. But there seems to be a drastic difference between calculated kilojoules on the phone and calculated kilojoules on the watch, because if anything, in Germany, I am moving a lot more, because you just do more, and I'm not working. I'm not sitting at a desk for 6 hours a day. But typically with my watch, I had no issues hitting 2,500 kilojoules every day. With just my phone monitoring it, and I make sure it's always in my pocket, I'm struggling to get anywhere near 1,000 kilojoules a day. So it doesn't seem right that the calculated or the predictive nature of tracking your calories or kilojoules is it shouldn't be so different. It's a massive difference, and I don't know why.
The watch has a lot more insight into exactly how many calories you're burning, because it can keep track of your heart rate, tell how much you're working. So maybe your phone thinks you're a much fitter person than you are.
It must, right?
He's just walking. He's walking a mile. That's not a big deal. The watch is like, oh man, no, his heart's racing. This is a big workout for him.
Yeah. Yeah. All my phone knows is 6'2", 35 and 80 kilos. His heart must be doing 40 BPM in that state. My watch is like, fuck, 120 BPM just to walk up a hill.
So either that or the way you carry your phone, it's not registering steps or something. I don't know.
Oh no, the steps are being counted though, because I'm tracking 7,000-8,000 steps a day on a standard day, which is it's decent, which is more than I do at home. That's for sure.
Yeah, it has to be just. I would trust the watch's measurements more than the phone's because it has that extra metric to go off of. But
Yeah.
it does seem weird they'd be that far off,
Yeah.
especially if it has a baseline already. Like, it should have a general idea of how many calories, walking a kilometer burns for you or something.
Yeah. I did do a bit of Googling to see if anyone else had complaints of a similar nature, but didn't pull up anything.
Yeah.
But maybe not. Maybe iOS 16 is too fresh for people to use one or the other and note the massive difference.
Right. Your use case specifically is probably super rare because most people that have an Apple Watch don't decide to ditch it for 2 months.
Yeah.
So that feature is only being used by people who've never had an Apple Watch.
Yep, exactly. I'm James VDM on Reddit and Twitter.
And I'm Jellywoot on Reddit and D3 Codes on Twitter.
And the show notes are at reddit.com/r/bluebubblepod.
All right. I don't have much to say about this. I'm just going to throw it in here. The short trip I took with my daughter the last couple of days, we went to like an indoor water park, and I kept my phone in my swimsuit the whole time so I could take pictures while we were playing in the pool, and it was underwater for a long time, and it worked just fine.
That is so cool. I'm still amazed when you told me. I think you only told me this year, at the start of the year, that you like go swimming with your phone. And I was shocked because I hadn't even contemplated it.
It's great because otherwise I would have, no photos of our trip.
Yeah.
So,
like I never have photos of going swimming because I've never got a camera with me.
Yeah. I encourage it, and it worked just fine.
That's awesome.
You just got to remember to pull your phone out of your swimsuit. You got to wipe the lens off so you don't have like a bead of water right on the lens when you try to take a photo.
Oh, yeah.
But,
Okay. Yep.
But yeah, it worked great.
Very cool. Well, it's getting pretty chilly here in Germany, so I don't think I'm going to be doing any swimming on this holiday, but once I'm back in Australia, it's heading into summer.
Mm-hmm.
I'll have to give it a go.
All right.
Does Apple
It's gonna be my
Care
luck.
cover any like water issues if you do happen to have any?
I mean, Apple Care Plus does. Accidental damage is pretty generic, right?
Yeah, okay.
So worst case scenario, my plan covers like theft and loss. So I was like, I lost the phone, and they'll just give me a new one. So
Yeah, the Australian one covers everything except theft and loss. Otherwise,
Okay.
it's the same.
So yeah, I think it'll be fine.
Mm.
If you're really worried about it, just smash the screen beforehand when you go in.
Simple.